Hey nerds, we are talking about Miss Marvel, the finale, episode 6, No Normal. We are going to give our reviews of the episode and then get into a full spoiler breakdown of the episode, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
Hi, I'm Priya.
Hey, so the spoiler-free logline for this episode is back in Jersey. Kamala fights to save her friends from the clutches of damage control. So, Priya, what did you think of this episode? Spoiler-free, of course.
So we know we're back in Jersey, so we returned from Karachi. And I think I'd said in the last review that we did that it almost felt like the previous episode was wrapping everything up in the story. And I have to say, I was very pleasantly surprised with this finale in terms of really taking the story further in the sense that there's more action, there's some laughs. It's of course we expect this now from Miss Marvel. There's a lot of family and community themes and lots of emotional themes and some great connections once again with her parents. So I think overall, I was very pleasantly surprised with how they brought it together. There were some very, very exciting reveals as well that I'm sure we'll get into in the spoiler breakdown. But I think it was quite packed. But I think it was decent pacing, to be honest. So I quite enjoyed it, and looking forward now how this is all going to play into the Marvels.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit as well. I don't know that it reached the heights of like episode 2 where I gave it like a 9. I think
Yeah.
that was like a perfect episode for me, almost a perfect episode for me. I gave the last episode an 8.5, and I'm giving this an 8.5 for different reasons. Like I think if the entire episode was in the past and it didn't have anything with the clandestine, I probably would have given it a 9. This episode is an 8.5 for me just because there's like a little bit of things could have been cut, or some things were a little bit wacky, but I do appreciate that they were trying to do something different with this finale, and all the emotional beats of course, which is the show has had from the beginning, of course elevates this episode. In addition to that, there is the some reveals that we didn't get earlier on in the episode in the season, which we'll get to as well, which are some reveals that I wasn't even expecting came up in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually a couple of reveals that I wasn't expecting, and they and Marvel and their promotional material did not spoil it, and they let it play out in this episode. So I think Miss Marvel fans will be pleasantly surprised, like comic book Miss Marvel fans will be pleasantly surprised by some of the things that happened in this episode. So yeah, it was a really good episode, I think. All right, so we're beating around the bush because there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of interesting stuff happened in this episode.
Yep.
So I think we can get into the spoiler talk. So if you're enjoying the conversation, please comment down below to join the conversation, like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. It helps the channel out. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. All right, with that, spoilers ahead. Go to watch the episode if you haven't already. It came out yesterday. We're running a little behind, so I know people don't get to these immediately, but just go watch the episode. We're gonna talk. All right, so what do you want to talk about first? I mean, all kinds of interesting stuff happens, like I said, in this episode. Yeah.
I know. We shouldn't. I guess we should go in chronological order, but I think you alluded to it in your spoiler-free version where we've talked about this. The strongest parts of the show are not about superheroes, right? The strongest parts are about family and connection and community and history. But I do think this episode was quite strong in putting the superhero elements in.
Much better than... Sorry, it was going.
Right?
I was going to say much better than a lot of shows.
Go ahead. No, I'm saying in that way, when you look at the first 2 episodes, we got that, and then it was so much focus on her journey. But I feel like this really there was a lot of callbacks to the first episode, and that might have been because it was the same 2 directors.
No, I was going to say...
but yeah, what were you saying? I'm
almost
curious
more than like any other Marvel show, they had like superhero tie-ins, like more like... We talked earlier in the season about how people would like go off on tangents and like say, "Oh, this is connected to this and this," and really all the shows have been very self-contained. Like they had a major character show up at the end. Like they've never had a major character show up in any of these shows. Like a character who in their own right have their own like movies with their title in it. Like they have characters show up at the end of these shows, but they're not no one who has their own like their own movies with their own title. They also hinted at like a whole different group of people. I'm not sure why I'm beating around the bush because we're in the spoiler section. They hinted at mutants, like they hinted at mutants with this show. So I don't know if there was like it was just like a hint to get people like giddy with that musical core because they just like tickle the right thing for like 90s kids with that rock riff from the show, from the X-Men show. But yeah, it was awesome, and also they embiggened her as well. So all kinds of comic book stuff. Yeah,
I literally clapped when that happened. I was so excited. Yeah, I honestly think they did so well in bringing the right elements of the superhero from the comics, but also like you said, the fact that they mentioned the whole mutation thing and played the 90s X-Men theme. I think people must have lost their minds. I definitely was like,
he said
what?
mutation.
I was like, did I hear that right?
I think maybe they're hinting at it, but like he said mutation, and he wouldn't really know what an Inhuman is. But they decided to put the X-Men theme. They control the show. The character doesn't know what Inhumans are. He would say mutation because if he saw something weird, it would be a mutation. But they decided to put the X-Men theme in there. So I don't know. Yeah, now people are going to spin into theories for the next however long until actual mutants show up.
I know. Now we go down the Mephisto hole about thinking when the X-Men are going to show up in the MCU. I also was like, wait, are they going to go down the Inhuman lane, or are they going to go down the X-Men thing? But then I was reading that Iman Vellani apparently like wrote this email to Kevin Feige in like all caps, super excited that she was going down this path of being a mutant and introducing that whole genre into the MCU. So I'll be curious where it goes.
With other work over the last 24 hours. So this happened over the last 24 hours. It was revealed that she sent an email about being a mutant. So.
Oh yeah, in all caps, just Kevin Feige. Apparently, she was the only one who was sent the final episode first, and as soon as she read it and she came to that line, she like wrote an all caps email to Kevin Feige, like, "Oh my God, are you really doing this? I'm so proud. I'm so honored."
Okay, yeah, because she was probably there for that line reading when the character said it, but she wasn't there for the final cut when they put the X-Men theme in it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool, and then like you said, the Captain Marvel thing showing up was just awesome as well. It was just so cool to see, because we've been speculating for the last 5 episodes
Brie Larson or
what's going to happen.
Someone else. Brie Larson was really small in this episode. Is she always this small? Like I know Iman was closer to the camera, but like she shows up here and she looks, I don't know, shorter than her and smaller than her here. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So I actually paused because initially I wasn't sure if it was like a Freaky Friday situation that they swapped bodies, or if it was that they swapped places. I mean, she doesn't have ankle.
Yeah.
It is.
But I don't know.
It is. But I definitely paused to be like, wait, is Brie Larson wearing the bangle? And I was like, okay, she isn't. So they did swap places. But I do agree. That's why it made me think, because to me also that the juxtaposition of the sizing seemed odd to me as well. I mean, for a second, but maybe that was
possible
mind playing tricks.
Remember that happened in the comics, right? That was the first thing that happened to her. So, but
exactly.
I would suspect the way that she reacted to all the Captain Marvel stuff in the room, it actually is Captain Marvel. She's like, why is there pictures of me all over the place? Is how I read. That's how I read her reaction.
Yes. Yeah, and the fact that she feels completely like she's looking around. Maybe she was, because I think the last we saw her, or last was implied after Avengers, is like she's going back into space, like, so she might just.
She was in space there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, but we don't know where that timeline is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah.
But we don't know the
I think
timeline, right,
is
between
before
this and
this
Shang-Chi,
in
I
the
guess.
timeline. It's like the summer. It's the summer, and this is like in November
Okay. Okay.
of 2025, I think. And they were actually really careful about the timeline because I saw something a little bit earlier. The halal guy when she's running through the thing has a health inspection code
Mm.
from 2025 in there, so they're not always very careful about it, but they were
That's
careful about it in this
funny.
episode
Okay.
to kind of to place you in the episode
Got
when she's running to go and help. But yeah, this family scene at the beginning was very cute. I mean, like you get all these questions about, do you have to charge up or do you have to? So, yeah.
So cute. I just like, I mean, again, like the family is so charming, and it's the same thing. They're all just so supportive and proud of her. It's great. It's just really great to see that family dynamic, and it almost is like a full circle with Muneeba in the
like,
first
we trust her,
episode,
right?
where she doesn't trust her at all,
It's great.
and now
It's
she's
great.
like, oh, but we trust
that's
her.
great. No, go ahead. Sorry.
It also shows,
Yeah.
yeah, it shows how far Muneeba has gotten
And
as
she's
well.
the one who gives her
not just
her
Kamala.
suit, as we said, which is yeah. And she puts
You
it in
called it.
the toffees that her mom was giving her. It's so that
Yeah.
it's awesome. And I think if you zoom in here, you can see a bunch of like geometric shapes, which is very, very, very
Yes.
Muslim. So like the way that they decorate mosques, they use shapes because they don't use images. So I thought that was a very cool detail. You see, yeah.
That is very cool, actually.
Right.
I didn't notice that, but yeah, you're right. It's almost like mosaic in a way.
That was Siri, because I don't know, for some reason I thought that I said Siri. All right. All right. So yeah, even at the end of the episode, they have her on the light, which is what they do in the thing. I mean, this is all CGI and is a little wonky, but I appreciate what they were trying to do, and I understand also they probably didn't have the budget. That's why they did it and reflect. But yeah.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah. You see.
This is where you saw the health code. Oh, I see it. Yeah, it says
2025.
2025.
Yeah, is what it says there. Yeah.
Good catch.
So
Good catch, Nathan.
She looked a little. She looked
The
a
CGI
little bit
did
too
seem
bendy
a bit
she was
wonky
jumping from place to place. I don't know if I had this power, if this would be the easiest way. I mean, I think they're trying to make her a little bit like Spider-Man. Like, is this really the quickest way to get from place to place? I guess she is jumping, but she didn't get like jumping powers to jump.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely. I mean, I agree with you because I also got like the Spider-Man vibes, especially once you saw the buildings. I do like that she stopped for the traffic light. I think that reminded me of like,
this is funny.
Driving
Stopping here. She actually has to put up it. Like she's moving so much with forward momentum. She puts her thing in front of herself to stop her. Like angled a little bit to stop her from going forward. Yeah. It's funny, but she also uses the side of this building to jump, and so she doesn't have to use so she's learning a way of getting around, similar to like Peter. This thing was funny. This little thing with her.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend did we see this guy earlier in the season? I forget.
I don't think so, because I definitely was like, who's that guy? I didn't. I mean, I didn't have that recollection, but I think the whole masquerade scene, even the scene before this, where is it Agent Deaver, right? Agent Deaver who goes in and like the Shaikh is already ready with like all the IDs, and he like quotes Abe Lincoln. I mean, it's just so brilliantly done. Again, it's just kind of like just. I think it might have been the second episode, right, where we got a lot of the
like I said, the
explanation
episode
about the mosques
probably the best of the season for me. Yeah, the mosque stuff. Then it had the Eid celebration with the that was a great episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it was just good to see those elements from the first two episodes that we love so much kind of being brought back.
Showing up in the end of the episode didn't really sit all that great with me, but apparently Zoe shows up a lot in the comic book, and she likes Nakia, so that's why they paired her in these episodes. Apparently, like she has like a romantic like crush on her. So I don't know if the boyfriend is going to go away, or I don't know if it's reciprocated, if her feelings are reciprocated with Nakia in the comics, but that should be interesting. I laughed out loud when he put the hats on them. He's like, you need a disguise. put on these hats. It's just making fun of the fact that's how everyone in the Marvel universe. Everyone in the Marvel universe hides themselves just by putting hats on each other. It's funny, yeah. And it also has like a haram and halal hats. Yeah,
It was hilarious. I thought it was so clever. It was, yeah. That's what the thing. Like, it's so much going on, but they have these like really great moments and comedic moments that are genuine and not forced. I think the scene you have paused right now. That's probably when the CGI
down.
was most wonky for me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was when I was like, and I think we talked about like the She-Hulk trailer where the CGI looked slightly wonky. So we'll see how that turns out. But I think this was probably where I was like, it's a bit odd.
I feel like that she's also like jumping. It's obvious CGI.
The whole
and you have to keep the actor safe. So I understand that, but it looks a little weird.
Of course.
But yeah, their whole reaction of like what are you wearing? And they're like, what are you wearing? It's also very funny.
Yeah. And both of them are clearly still thirsting for her too. So I think to see her in her full attire, I think even though Kamran says he's dying from the inside or whatever, he's still very much.
So yeah, I guess their triangle didn't really. I guess no one ended up with her because he had to run, and like Bruno busted in on them almost kissing each other, and he was like, "All right, I'm off the Caltech." It's like, so yeah. So they make up there, and then we have this whole scene with them. We get a little bit of the whimsy back because these are the same directors that directed the first episode with the animations. So not as much animation this episode, but it's still here with the with the scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, exactly. It's like that Avengers Con plan. I will say this felt a bit like
that's the part where I said
Home Alone.
A little bit of a ding for this episode. It was a little bit Home Alone. Some of these gags were like, okay, whatever, a little groany. The toothpaste thing was cool. Like I think at first when they punched Bruno, I was like, are you punching a child? But like they did assault them a lot with like baseballs and that and as cool as it is to look at that toothpaste from afar, it's enough force to knock down a human being. So yeah, they did.
True. Yeah, I mean, I think they purposely went for something like, I guess, un-Marvel because at the end of the day, they're, I guess, like high school kids, right? So they're not gonna come out like throwing punches and stuff. So I get that. Yeah. It felt very Home Alone to me. I think that it definitely was, and maybe that was on purpose to show the juxtaposition between like they are high school kids, and that's why the agent is saying like don't go after them. But it definitely was like slightly odd, and then the whole Zoe thing caught me off guard too. Like suddenly showing up and being part of the gang and knowing it was Kamala.
Her brother showing up. I can understand her parents, even though her parents want her to be like trust her, would send her brother to go help. But like Zoe just like randomly being there. But like I said, I think it just has to do with like if they get another season, she's going to be into Nakia because they specifically paired her in scenes with her because like Nakia was like, why are you here? Why do you even care? Why do you tell?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I will say the only thing about this scene, this Home Alone scene, even though, like I said, I don't like it because it's mostly a Home Alone scene. That the only thing that I have an issue with is that it went on too long. But there were some cool things, like they thinking this is a bomb and it's just like a disco ball and it going off. It's funny.
Yeah.
I think the fire extinguisher part probably went on a little bit too long. They knocked down this and then the toothpaste thing. Like I said, that's this is awesome. This was cool.
That was very cool.
Yeah. And I think this is the moment with Bruno and I actually missed this the first time I saw it that their hands glowed in the middle of this conversation, and that's why they almost kiss. And then Bruno comes in. So you see the combination of their glowing hands here, and then Bruno comes in on this. So yeah, this almost intimate moment, and I think in that moment he decides, you know what, Caltech sounds awesome. Oh, I think it's the combination of this, and then like less than a minute later, he gets punched in the face by an agent. It's like, you know what, I don't need any of this. I'm going to California. It's like.
exactly.
He says
I do
Bruno.
like that
Yeah, he
Kamran
says,
turned around and he knows that Bruno has a relationship with
yeah.
him. So I like that he was like, oh, because they're kind of like connected now. So that was
It's
nice.
like,
But
I'm
yeah, I
done.
think Bruno's like, all right, time to
Yeah,
cut out of here.
yeah, they all, I mean, so like, I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
they slam all of them to the floor, and I'm like, okay, fine. But like them punching him really did shock me. Like that is a child, sir. Why are you punching a child?
Yeah.
It's like so. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely was a bit of a shock. And
Yeah.
this part when
Yeah,
Kamran
I
starts
kind
to
of knew
kind
that was
of get
happening.
unhinged,
When
unsurprising.
she had the conversation with him, with Bruno, and Bruno was like, yeah, that's terrible. Do not tell him until we're out of this situation. You knew he was going to find out before the situation was over. So yeah.
Exactly. I was like, I thought Bruno was supposed to be the smart guy, but no. I mean, I think it was inevitable. I do wish she had done a better job explaining it. I was like, Kamala, do a better job explaining what Najma actually did, because
Yeah.
it was just so like open-ended, that he got changed. But I guess it's also they're also like
I
under pressure
I will say
because
that
the
90%
agents
of
are after them. So
Iman's
like, I guess I get
performance
it.
as a person who's never acted before was great. This part was not. It was not great. The delivery, her
Hmm.
tone of voice with that she decided to impart this information wasn't good. But like that's the only knock that I would give her as an
Yeah.
actress. They probably should have done another run at this scene because it seemed a little weird
Right.
to me. But yeah, everything else
Hmm.
has been like I said with her. It's been awesome. You can't really tell this. This is the first thing she's ever acted in. But yeah, he starts to go crazy, and then she realizes even
Definitely.
in the bathroom she realizes because he almost throws someone out of the window. So she realizes that like yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she
And
realizes
she
that she
shields
has to
the
keep him safe while also keeping him from harming other people, which just makes her job a lot more difficult. Is pain is yeah. So
yeah.
their real plan is starting to come together now because their real plan was Zoe and her social media following. I think early in the season they say that she had like 10 million or something like that or something or so. Maybe 500, maybe 500,000.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't.
remember. I don't
I
think it
mean,
was a billion.
her
Maybe
number
it might be
was,
500,000. But yeah,
but I guess because of this, if this was where they wanted to bring in the whole community aspect, they needed a way to bring that, and so I guess that's why they had the Zoe thing come in. And I think you're right with the Nakia thing. I'd seen some comments online as well with that, but this part I think probably went on long for me as well. Just
yeah.
like so much back and forth. But yes, I guess there's a payoff at the end because she finally says "Imbigin"
Yeah,
and I
I mean,
giggled like
it
a
makes no
schoolgirl. I
sense
was just
because
so
like
excited
where would she get that from? But I
to
didn't
see
really
it. And then
care.
she,
It was just cool. It makes it like
yeah,
where did she get that from? Why did she say that?
yeah,
Like has she
exactly.
always been thinking about being bigger? Like why? But whatever. It looked cool, and it was cool, and everyone was as just as in the crowd was just as wild as at it as the people at home watching it. But yeah, I was like, it was another thing there. They're actually shooting live rounds at this again, children. Like they're shooting at children. Uh, it's not like
Kids.
Spider Man where he's swinging around and
Yeah,
he calls himself Spider Man, so you don't know whether or not he's a man or not. These look like children, and he's shooting and they're
right.
shooting at them.
They're very much kids.
Right.
I mean, even if Kamala has a mask on, they know the rest of them are kids, and they have no issue
Yeah.
pushing them to the ground or punching them in the face.
Yeah.
So that it definitely had a
I think
bit
that
disturbing
maybe that was
element
what
for
I
sure.
was trying to think about what
I think
the advisory at the top was because there was an advisory at the beginning of this episode, and I think it was probably them shooting at children that was the issue. There was like there's scenes in
right.
here that might be disturbing for people. So yeah,
That's
yeah,
probably it.
yeah.
You are
Because
probably
yeah,
right.
I didn't even really think about the advisory until I was going back to get screenshots because I missed it the first time. But yeah, when I was watching this, I was disturbed by them shooting at these children. So yeah, good.
That would do it. And this part actually, when her parents are yelling, I mean, not that anybody around them is probably caring, but I was thinking, I was like, they are very much
Yeah, saying
acting
beta,
like her
yeah.
parents because they're also screaming beta, which is like
I mean,
which is
there
my
are two
child,
people
right?
there, so
That's what
you
they're
could say that
screaming
they
is
could be
like my
talking about either
child.
one of
So
them. But yes, they've known her secret identity for like less than a couple days, and they're already
I
This
mean,
is
to
true.
be fair
Yes,
though,
this is true.
their daughter is getting shot at, so like they're not
if
thinking
similar thing
in
was happening, I
their
wouldn't
right
really care
mind.
either.
Any,
Like my child is over there, and you're shooting at my child. Why are you shooting at my child?
yeah,
It's so, yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah,
You are not thinking about like protecting identity at that point. But
yeah,
yeah, this is the part where
yeah.
she does the
And
embiggen. There we
I think
go.
they do a good mix here because they make certain things big and certain things not big, which is sort of what it's like in the comic. Like
Yeah,
she makes body parts big, but like her torso isn't
yeah.
big. But like it doesn't make sense based upon how her powers were working before. I actually they made her torso big, but it kept her head the same. But it's also her torso isn't as big as her hand, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's an interesting effect. It looks good. It's a little wonky at the top, but I think they did a good job. I think in general, I think this looks better than some of the jumping around that she did. Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah,
And like
and
you said,
also
this is probably where they put
since
most
they
of the
did it,
budget.
that means that we're going to see more of it in the Marvels show, Marvels movie. So that should be cool. Yeah, yeah,
That is true. That is very, very true. So yeah, I think this part went on a bit probably longer. I mean, not like it was several
yeah,
minutes long, but
yeah.
I was like, okay,
The
Crystal,
animation
Crystal,
of his
Crystal, we
stuff
get it.
because
He's
he
angry.
doesn't have the Embiggen thing isn't that impressive after a while. But I guess you had to have him go off to have her do the save here. But I feel like
Yeah. And for him to have that moment of like, oh crap,
yeah.
I'm sending this car over
I think
to
this part,
innocent
I
people.
think it was like, is this too much? Uh, yeah, it's just too much. It doesn't look great.
Yeah.
Like the animation on his stuff doesn't look great when you use this much of it. It looks better when it's smaller. When it's this much,
Hmm.
it basically looks like a cartoon drawn the thing. It doesn't look like real crystals, really. Hers, because of the shade, sort of looks like real crystals, and also they
Agreed.
decided to do a different thing with her with the embiggen thing. So you're really not looking at it as much. But yeah, this conversation is also where the name of the episode comes from. No normal. She says there is no normal. There's just what we do with
Hmm.
what we've been given. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Very Gandalfy over there. But this was the other part of the. I was like, where? So we're supposed to believe the
I
whole
don't
whole
know.
takes
Yeah,
him to the dock.
I just went
That
with
this
it.
part
Like, I
also
mean,
seemed very odd to me.
she was just in big. What I thought
You
was
just went with
that
it.
it's a hole to the sewer, and they could have chased after her, but chased after him, but they were all pulled back by the head office after all this happened anyway. So yeah, and then
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, did the Spider-Man moment work for you?
Yeah, it again, I agree with you. It did have a very Spider-Man moment. I think
That was
the
that was a little
policeman thing,
much.
I was like, oh, okay, that might be
Yeah, yeah. If
probably
it was
like
just regular
pushed it
people,
further
like, oh,
over
the
that
cops,
edge
because
that
this
I'm
is our neighborhood and we're with our people. Really? Okay.
yeah, yeah. But I think that the power of community, because we saw the Sheikh there, we saw like the auntie there. So I think that theme has been part of the show. So that part I was like, okay, the community's coming around her.
The cops
But
thing,
I
yeah.
think this part I was like, really? You didn't stop anybody from
Yeah,
shooting
the
at
cops
kids,
were
but now you
a
want to
little
stand
extra,
in
but
a
like I can
row
understand,
in
like it's a little
solidarity.
different than the Spider-Man thing because, like you said, it's not about like the entire city loving her. Loving her is more about her community specifically loving her. But the cops being there muddies this thing, and it's kind of like, oh, everyone in Jersey City loves her. Really, everyone in Jersey City,
Yeah,
or is it mostly because most of the people in her community who loves her? I think that's probably would have been better without the cops in the
correct.
mix there. But whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is because I think it's like soon after this is when they have like the montages of the people around her community talking
Yeah.
about how great it is to have somebody that is
Yeah.
looking out for us. So I think that theme works. The one thing we skipped over, which I think was interesting with Kamran, it's also his family and his tie to Najma, which brings him back and makes him agree to actually align essentially with the Red Daggers, who he said, though the clandestines have been at war with them or whatever for centuries, but when Kamala is like, your mom saved this earth for you, it kind of
exactly
brings him back.
They tried to make him, this guy from the DOD, seem more reasonable. I don't know, maybe because they're going to have him show up in other shows, so they want to make him. He didn't want to make him the racist, because if he shows up in another movie or something, that he has to carry that. So I doubt that the woman is going to show up in other shows and things. I think they had him as kind of the tissue that connects Spider-Man No Way Home to this. So I think the damage control is going to show up again, and he's going to be the damage control guy. So she gets it.
For sure. There's definitely other teenagers that he can go and interrogate. I mean, if Young Avengers
so here's all the social media
he's
stuff
gonna have a field day. So.
And that I don't have all of this, but I got some of it. And specifically what I thought was funny was the kid that she said. I laughed out loud when he said, she's a freaking superhero, action superhero, but she dropped me. I guess that was the beta test. Yeah, you were the beta test.
He literally was the beta test. I think it was also, was it right after this or soon, where the Sheikh is like, oh, we're having a celebration back in the mosque and it's ice cream pizza. It's just like all really cute things from the first two episodes that we loved so much.
Okay. Yeah, and then this is when she just regards herself in the mirror, which is also very cute. And she basically sees herself. Go ahead.
Yeah, and again. No, and again, a callback to the first
Captain
episode
Marvel,
when she's dressed in cosplay as Captain Marvel.
It does mirror that scene. She had herself dressed up as someone else, and now she's dressed up as herself, which is cool. So her mother gives her the suit, and her father gives her name, which is also awesome. This conversation, yeah.
Just the best, just the best.
Yeah,
My God, Yusuf is like one of the best MCU dads.
Yeah, and also he says something I think that I've heard often in Muslim faith. He says you save one person and you save the world. So also adding a bit here about the faith. Her brother Nakia, and then we see him connecting with the Red Dagger, Kamran, and what's the guy, the Red Dagger's name? Another Kareem, connecting with Kareem in Karachi. So, yeah, and then this is where he tells her about her name. I mean, I feel like, even though I feel like she would, at 16, know where her name comes from, she would have at least looked it up herself, and still thought it was cool. I mean, I don't know, maybe she doesn't know Urdu. It's very possible. Yeah. There are lots of immigrant kids who don't necessarily know the language of their parents. So maybe she didn't know. So, yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, it did make me think if that was on purpose, why the comic book creator named her Kamala was because it means Marvel, or if that was just by coincidence. I'm actually not sure.
I think they listed like Marvel as last, so maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, and they're just stretching it a little bit. They listed Perfect and Wonder, and a Wonder is very close to a Marvel, So I think that might be a little bit of a stretch. I think in the comic book, she's just like a fangirl, and the reason she takes Miss Marvel up is because Captain Marvel was Miss Marvel at first. But I don't know. Maybe G. Willa actually looked it up, because he does. G. Willa did post. I think earlier on in the season, I mentioned that she posted something about the two different meanings of Kamala, like the way that you would say Kamala from this show, and also the way you would say Kamala, which is the vice president. So he mentions Arabic and Urdu. So the names are spelled the same, but they have different roots. So, and I guess they're saying that her name is from Urdu, not Arabic. So yeah. This is a great scene, because Yusuf, I think you're right. He's one of the best MCU dads, and there's a lot of bad MCU dads. So
yeah, I was gonna say I don't know who else I would put in that list, but he's definitely in it.
You get a similar scene to one that we got last season when her mother was wowed by what she's doing. Yeah, absolute magic.
Yeah.
all the actors in this show are really good. Oh, the main characters, the main characters. Yes,
are
yes,
really
the main characters.
except
Yeah, and this is also from the comic book, and this was shot beautifully. Yeah,
that's iconic. Yeah, that's the iconic shot, and I just love how much more confident that she is with herself, not
yeah,
having to play Captain Marvel. It's
yeah,
just such a cool way to end it at this point itself. But then you get
yeah.
the extra
The
bits, which
conversation with
are
them, I guess,
awesome.
deciding. So he's going off to school, and I guess Cameron just left his car. I guess he didn't just leave his car. He left the entire house because I guess they had a house
Yeah,
there as well. Um, so which is good because his house was exploded a week ago. So so I guess he has somewhere to stay as well.
it's true.
I don't know how they're gonna. I don't know. Maybe it's covered by insurance because yeah, his grandmother's whole business is obliterated there. And then we get and then the final scene is the after credit scene with the thing glowing and her disappearing.
It's the one thing that so does it glow in
No,
the
it was like
usual
pulsing.
way
It was
that it
like
has been
pulsing like a
glowing? It
signal.
seemed odd
Like a
because
signal was like it was receiving a signal, and then she was zapped away. So yeah,
okay,
it was very weird. But I'm sure we'll get
yeah,
some explanation in the Marvels, and we were already speculating that it was part of the Kree, and now we have this direct connection with Captain Marvel. So I guess
yeah,
it's sort of confirmed here that it's part of the Kree in some way because her powers in a lot, well, her powers come from the space
hmm,
zone, but it's mostly from the Kree, like messing around with the space zone, and she was trained by the Kree. So yeah,
yeah. No, I think definitely, and I also do wonder because you mentioned Shang-Chi earlier because we had talked about in previous
mm-hmm.
episodes about the connections between the 10 rings and the bracelet and the fact that the bracelet was in one of the 10 ring sites. They talked about a second bracelet, so
Yeah.
I don't know if that
Yeah, the
is
quantum bands
important
I think we were
detail that will
talking about
come into play
earlier,
at some point.
which the quantum bands there are two of them, so maybe that we'll find out that these are the quantum bands, and I don't know, someone was messing with the other one, and that's how she was zapped away because she was zapped away. She was zapped like she
Mm,
was zapped to the location of the
right.
other one, which would give her even more powers. Like she has these crystal powers, which they didn't have in the comic book, and people were like, okay, I guess they're not going to give her the embiggening powers, but she has the crystal powers, plus she has the embiggening powers, plus I guess she can go anywhere in the universe or whatever with the bracelets. So I guess they're definitely powering her up because this is a different. I mean, in this universe,
Yeah.
regular Marvel universe, there's so many other characters before she was created, but like in this universe, she's only like I don't know maybe the 15th, not the 15th, might be the like 20th or 30th superhero. So they can load her up with a lot of powers that maybe other characters have had in other iterations of the Marvel universe. So yeah, it
And then curious, would she be considered the first mutant,
they
or
sort of
would
they sort of
Wanda
hint at the
and
fact that
Pietro be
Wanda might be a
considered the
mutant, but
first mutant?
they never hinted at it with this explicitly like this. They chose to play that music cue
Yeah.
in this episode. Like it was like a hint, and then like
Hmm.
people fanboys on the internet and like theory sites would like spin off the same people who would talk about Mephisto, but like they put the music cue in this episode. They wanted you to think of the mutants in this episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's if they make her a mutant, I think that's going to be far
Yeah.
simpler. Like, but it does make it weird that they're also still tying her to the Kree because the Kree are the ones who created the Inhumans. So I don't know they're making her all the things. So,
They are. That's why when you were talking about the powering her up, I was like, and they also made her
yeah,
explicitly the first mutant in
yeah.
616 as MCU hero wise. So Yeah, we'll really curious to see how much of the stuff will get unpacked in the Marvel and with Monica as well, because we obviously I was more
Yeah,
I
I guess
almost thought that
they went
Monica
with
would show
the
up in
title
this, not
character
Captain
there.
Marvel,
They
but
went
it
with
was really
the heavy hitter. I mean, I think it probably makes more sense. Like I was saying earlier in the season, like
yeah.
she has no connection to Monica unless Monica showed up to the scroll showed up and it was like, I have a mission for you. Although she actually doesn't get to meet her at all. Like they
Hmm.
switch places, so her hero is in another is in her room, which would probably make her freak out. But she went to wherever her hero is. I assume yeah, or
Yeah,
wherever her hero was rather. So yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. And maybe Monica's there for all we know. So really curious to see where they're going to take it. And it was also nice to see
yeah,
that Miss Marvel will return in the
yeah.
Marvels.
It was good.
That was a nice little touch to
I
end it
think, when
with.
is that movie coming out? I think 2023, or maybe yeah. So we don't. I guess we don't have to wait that long, because I do know
2023.
that they started shooting it, and maybe they have finished shooting it. So looking forward to that. I think that I knew that Wanda was going to
Yeah.
show up in Doctor Strange, and I was sort of like anticipating that, but I'm far more interested now that we've seen what happened with Monica and was sorry in WandaVision, and we saw what happened with Miss Marvel here, with Kamala here. I'm very interested in what's going to happen in the Marvels now. So yeah, yeah,
Definitely. Definitely. And Secret Invasion as well. I guess we'll
yeah,
see how much that will
yeah.
overlap with some of the stuff with the
Very
Kree
happy with the
especially.
developments in this episode.
But yeah,
Even wore
it's
my
gonna be
X-Men
fun.
shirt today to commemorate that. So 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 yeah, it was a good episode. So anything else? I think we covered everything.
We did, but I think this was the last episode, and they called it the series, the season
Yeah,
finale. They called it the season finale, so I guess they're leaving it open. Obviously, we know the movie is coming, but just to say, I mean, even if they don't make a second season, it was just such a joy. I loved so many things about this. I think it's a must watch as a comic book fan, definitely as a South Asian. I mean, the fact that they like show this really painful and dark history with the Indian
mm-hmm.
subcontinent and about Pakistan, but with so much care and meaning. Marvel fans and for frankly Western audiences, that's not done but in a South Asian movie or a book or something. I
Yeah,
honestly think like they've just done such an amazing job with the show.
yeah.
So I have to
It was a
say
great
it's
ride.
fantastic,
I
and I
really
really loved it.
appreciated where they landed. Like I think last week we were saying that penultimate episodes are usually better than than the finale, and I think they were pretty much on par because they decided to do something different. There was definitely a big
Mm,
climactic scene, but they did a lot of other things in this episode.
yeah,
So I think it was one of the better finales of the Marvel shows. So yeah, yeah,
agreed, agreed. I mean, I still as an MCU kind of genre, I think like Loki I would put number one, but I would put this like my second favorite, I think,
yeah.
of the rest
I
of
think
the
Loki
Marvel shows
was my
that have
number
come
one
out
because
in the
I
last
think
year.
Loki was always like my number two, but I think this is supplanted it as my number two because, like I said, Hawkeye was my number one because I think they landed it a
Hmm.
little bit better, and it was consistent all the way out, all the way through rather. I think Loki had a lot of very cool MCU comic book stuff and lots of cool Easter eggs, but I think
Yeah,
some of the episodes in the middle kind of dragged a little bit for me. But yeah, I like Loki. I mean, Loki, I think is neck and neck with WandaVision for me, just because of the interesting stuff that they did with WandaVision,
mm,
how they really committed to all
yeah, for
the
sure.
different eras, and they actually did the research and had a studio audience in that first episode. So yeah, they really leaned into it. I think. So, yeah. All right. So
Yeah,
if there's nothing else,
no, for
that is
sure.
what we think. But we're interested to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below to join the conversation, like and subscribe to get more content like this, and we will see you next time. Actually, I think the guys are doing a review of Thor right now, so you'll see that soon. All right, bye. Thanks, guys. Talk to you.